And thank you, distinguished senators. My name, for the record, is Elisha Ongoya. I'll be making the governor's final submissions. Mr. Speaker, sir, before I delve into the substantive part of my submissions, and because looking at the program of this House, this may be the last time I'm standing here to address on this matter, allow me with great humility to begin by thanking you, Mr. Speaker, and the distinguished senators who have given us audience despite the great time constraints that we have had to go through in making this case. I'll be failing in my responsibility for courtesy if I didn't thank the administrative staff, the secretariat staff of this Senate, who have given us significant support, both within this House and in the corridors of this precinct as we found our way around. Mr. Speaker, sir, at this juncture, allow me to proceed to the more substantive parts of the governor's closing submissions. Allow me to begin by pointing out that as a young Christian fellowshipping at Esrave Church of God deep in Vihiga County, and as a middle-aged Christian fellowshipping somewhere in Amalemba Church of God in Kakamega County, I have gathered some enduring lessons from Scripture, and I will start by drawing inspiration from those lessons. The wise man who authored the book of Proverbs, at chapter 18, verse 17, guides us as follows when we are confronted with matters such as this. In a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward to cross-examine him. That ecclesiastical wisdom has found pragmatic rendition in these proceedings, as I will demonstrate shortly. Mr. Speaker, sir, the governor was presented in the opening remarks by the County Assembly's Council to this assembly, for lack of a better word, as some form of scoundrel. Fortunately, in this August House, both parties have had an opportunity to present documentary and electronic evidence. Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, when the history of this attempted impeachment of the governor of Meru County, Her Excellency Honorable Kawira Mwangaza'S, shall be authored, one word will be repeated in that historical text. That word is a Meru word, kibiri. I'm told, in its innocence, it is a stick that is used to stir porridge. Sadly, in that historical text that I've alluded to, that word will have no aura of innocence. I beg to pose the following questions to the hearts, the minds, and the conscience of these distinguished senators. Are we, in making a decision this evening, going to dignify the Kibiri movement that we have seen today by impeaching this governor? Are we, honorable distinguished senators, going to dignify the acts of Honorable Mpuru Waburi that you had occasion to watch today live by impeaching this governor? Honorable senators, are we today going to dignify the act of the honorable member for Buri constituency that we have seen today supporting the other acts of Mpuri that you had observed by impeaching this governor? Are we going to dignify the acts of the deputy governor for Meru County openly and in the company of the young people of this country that we ought to give proper moral guidance, calling a governor a prostitute? Are we going to dignify that person by impeaching this governor? The governor has been accused of being a leader who disrespects other leaders. Video clips of the alleged disrespect have allegedly been played here, including a song, Wenye Wivu Wajinyonge. On the other hand, the governor has demonstrated to you the sins that have been committed against her by those very leaders she is accused of disrespecting. Distinguished senators, in good conscience, are you going to vote that this governor is a greater sinner than she has been sinned against? In good conscience. How many of us can reconcile our conscience, distinguished senators, with the fact that it is the men you saw today uttering the words you saw them utter and projecting the actions that you saw them project as against the governor that have actually come to this house to complain against that governor? I've heard of the claim of pots calling kettle black. I never knew in my living history I would come across a pragmatic rendition of what that means. Today was my answer. I invite you to have that reflection, distinguished senators. I have asked myself, I invite these distinguished senators to ask themselves, Mr. Speaker, sir, where did these leaders get the moral high ground to invite this house in view of the sins that they have committed against the governor to find that the governor has sinned against them? Distinguished senators, technology has been deployed in these proceedings. We are beaming these proceedings live to the whole world by medium that will preserve them to eternity. How shall the members of this house, individually and collectively, account to their children and children's children that they ever dignified the acts of these people who have leveled a war against the governor by confirming the impeachment of the governor? We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the peace of our conscience to make a decision that takes that into account. Choices have consequences, or so it is a truism. By impeaching this governor, if you so decide, the logical consequence is that that person you saw chanting with the young men of Meru, calling the governor a prostitute, would rise to the office of governor. Is that the desirable outcome you want out of your decision this evening, distinguished senators? Members of the County Assembly have brought the governor here. I speak the governor's heart. We do not begrudge them. They have the power to do that. They have exercised that power. Have they rightly exercised that power? Distinguished senators, that decision lies in your hand. You are told that the governor did not present the evidence that she has given before you to the county assembly. Fortunately, this house is a house of record. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, you have fantastic rules of procedure that, of course, we can make better, as we have seen. And I would strongly recommend, hoping time will permit, that we relook at the timelines for impeachment of governors if we have to do absolute justice in terms of filings, in terms of argument of the case. These are reform issues because we are in continuous improvement as a society. But putting all factors on the scale, we have done well in presenting some records before this House. When you retire and before you vote tonight, I invite every senator to open volume number 4 of the County Assembly's documents and turn specifically to page number 146 of that volume and look at the conversation that is taking place at that page. This is the Hansard of the County Assembly of Meru of 25th October 2023. If you turn with me to page 146, you will see this conversation. Elias Mutuma, advocate for the governor, says, "Mine will be brief, but I will not proceed until we are given a ruling on the 2 issues raised by my seniors. We seek direction on how to table the evidence that we have and how we will get a ruling on the public participation. The governor is pleading to be given a chance to table her evidence." The Speaker, Honorable Ayub Bundi, says when your brother Omari was speaking, he mentioned a difference between honorable members and your team. He stated that he knows the division in this House and he cannot step on the other side. Anything you'd like to table in this House must go to the House Business Committee. You cannot do it when you're on that side. You must be on the side where the members are. I was wondering, Mr. Speaker, sir, how was Mr. Mutuma possibly supposed to get to the side where the members are? Was he supposed to organize a mini election in Meru County, become elected as senator for the temporary purpose of participating in these proceedings? I don't know. I am a career learner, and I learn every day. It is only allowed for honorable members. We are being told only honorable members are allowed to table evidence. You are not allowed to table evidence. We are going to make a reference to the Hansard systems because everything that you talk is being captured. You can proceed as the Speaker. The Speaker, we don't begrudge him. He had power to make a ruling. Mr. Speaker, just as you have power to make rulings here. Did he use that power correctly? That is the question I pose to the conscience of the men and women bestowed with the arduous responsibility of protecting devolved governance in this country, sitting in this House as distinguished senators. The conversation continues with Elias Mutuma, advocate for the governor, making an argument. My understanding, therefore, is that we will not lay the evidence that we have. The Speaker answers him, "How will you table it, Mr. Mutuma?" Mutuma is asking him, "You are the presiding officer in this House. Guide me on how to table." Mr. Mutuma is being challenged. "How will you do it? You are not an MCA. That is why MCAs enter through the main door, and you entered through the back door." This was no longer differentiation. This was apartheid. Discrimination on the basis of the door you entered through. Whoever entered through the main door had a chance to table evidence. Whoever entered through any other door was denied a right to table evidence. Mr. Mutuma, exercising the persistence of a lawyer that we teach in law schools, continues. My hope is now pleading hope. My hope is that you will guide me on how we will lay the evidence that we have, because I'm a stranger in this house. The Speaker answers him, we are going to rely on the Hansard system. As you talk, be aware that you are giving your evidence. He says, in desperation, well-guided, a very well-trained lawyer. Whether you agree or disagree with the judge, you say most obliged. You'll be told this nepotism is in the engagement and employment of Edwin Mutuma Murangiri, a nephew to the governor. I've spoken about that. The lesser I say about it, the better. Nefat Kinyua, the governor's brother-in-law, in public knowledge. I mean, what kind of behavior is this? Assigning diplomatic duties. You'll be told the evidence that diplomatic duties were assigned is in a Facebook post. You are told, okay, read that Facebook post. Where does it assign diplomatic duties to the governor's relatives? It is not there. It's those pictures you see there. If you look at them carefully, they are speaking. Those pictures are speaking about diplomatic duties. Surely, a Senate to be engaged in that, I was a little embarrassed. That's 5 minutes. That's okay. Bullying, vilification, demeaning other leaders. We have shown what those leaders have done to the governor. The less I say about it, the better. They actually dared and threw the first stone when they had sinned more. Illegal appointments, I'll talk about this because this is statutory and I have an obligation to guide this Senate on the law. I will refer this Senate to section 64 of the County Government Act. It says, acting appointments shall be made only by the lawful appointing authority and for a specified period. It then says, nothing in this section, nothing that previous section has said, shall prevent a public officer, like the governor here, like the county secretary, those are public officers, from deploying another officer to perform the duties vested in another office during temporary absence, during a vacance that office. You will listen to the case of the county assembly. They will keep quiet on section 64, subsection 4, as if it does not exist. But let's move just further, senators. Subsection 5 says, if it comes to the attention of the County Public Service Board that a public officer has purportedly made an acting appointment, delegation, or deployment, as the case may be, contrary to the provisions of this section, the County Public Service Board shall take necessary corrective action. This is something that the law prescribes its own procedure of remedying. Why would we use a sledgehammer of an impeachment when the law actually prescribes a lesser restrictive measure that can solve the problem? That's what the county assembly has engaged you in. Naming a public road after the husband. Show us the road. Oh, let's go to Facebook. You'll find the... Surely, Senate has been engaged in that argument. I thought they would drop it in their final argument. Council stood here and insisted, we have produced compelling evidence in a Facebook post. That's elevating jokes to new heights. Contempt of the assembly. 1, tasked to explain where that offense is found in statute. The witness, of course, stuttered. The governor has contextualized all her responses to the county assembly. May I just inform this Senate? You have summoned the governors here who have said, let us go to court and interpret the scope of your powers as Senate to invite us, to interrogate us. And you have engaged them in court. That is development of our law. That is not contempt of the assembly. The governor ought to be praised. Is this governor a peacemaker? You saw her with MCS, launching projects in their wards. giving them the opportunity to shine by being the ones who read those projects. You are politicians. You know what that means in terms of dignifying and improving the stature of those MCAs. I say, true to her word, this governor is a foremost peacemaker. It matters not whether she shall be brought here 100 times. You cannot victimize her because those who torment her are tireless in their torments against her. I beseech you, senators, to vote against each of these charges overwhelmingly in the interest of your individual and collective conscience. I rest the governor's case.
Senator Okiya Omutata, kindly take your seat. Take your seat, Senator Muma. Honorable Senators, ladies and gentlemen, following the conclusion of the closing remarks by the Counsel for the County Assembly and that of the Governor, Rule 27 of the Rules of Procedure when considering the proposed removal of Governor in plenary provides as follows: that the Senate shall proceed into a camera session to deliberate on the issues raised. I now therefore direct that all members of public, including the media, to withdraw from the galleries and any form of broadcast from the chamber to cease forthwith. The camera session will be held for only 10 minutes, after which the open session will resume as per the hearing program that has been circulated. Specifically, the open session will resume at exactly 10 p.m. Once we resume, the parties will be allowed to walk into the chamber and take their space. Members of public will be allowed to walk into the chamber. Media will be allowed back to the chamber. That is at exactly 10 p.m. Now, upon resumption of the open session, a supplementary order paper will be circulated. The Senate Majority Leader will give a notice of motion to facilitate debate. Debate will then ensue on the motion in the usual manner. And at the conclusion thereof, the Honorable Her Excellency Kawira Mwangaza'S, the Governor of Meru County, will be given an opportunity to be heard. Thereafter, the Senate will proceed to vote on each of the impeachable charges. That is the direction of the chair. Thank you.